Hello, this is actually my second time trying to record this. I recorded something yesterday, but it was kind of all over the place. So I'm gonna try and do it again today, but a bit more structure. I wonder if I should take my glasses off. Yeah, okay, this feels a bit more intimate. Not really, I just don't want to have my glasses. I think the glare is a bit annoying. Okay, so as you can tell by the title, I'm gonna be talking about a very traumatic, life-changing experience that I had on Easter weekend 10 years ago. I felt this weekend approaching, and I thought, hey, actually, this would be a good time to make this video because I've been wanting to tell this story for a while now. Obviously, I'm not going to go into extreme detail, but I'm going to give like a brief. I'm going to try and keep it brief because I do not want an hour-long video on here because we all have short attention spans these days, myself included. But I will try and give, okay, whatever. Let's just get into it, okay? So anyway, this is not going to be my proper welcome to my channel video. I'm going to try and do a proper one later. Obviously, I do want to do some passion stuff, but I also want to do some like talking stuff similar to this video. So there might be a bit of trauma dumping here and there sometimes. Let's get into it. I feel like this is giving very old school YouTube vibes, the very low quality. I'm literally just recording this on my phone. Couldn't be bothered putting on any makeup. I'm not even wearing pants, to be honest with you. But that's okay, you can't see it. Anyway, whatever. Why are we getting into this? That is not the point of today's video. So let's get into today's video. The weekend that ruined my life. So, a little bit of background. I grew up in a very, very, very strict religious home. We were all Christian, mostly Pentecostal. We did go to Baptist churches for a couple of years, but yeah, my family has always been primarily Pentecostal. So one huge thing, especially my dad enforced this a lot, was modesty in women's outfits. So basically me, I'm the only daughter. I have two brothers. My dad was very involved in the clothes that I wore, modesty and whatnot. So the typical, nothing tight, nothing short, nothing above your knees. Here's a funny thing. I didn't learn how to swim at a young age because I wasn't allowed to wear the normal swimsuits, and my mom bought me this massive the reason I say it was a grandma swimsuit. So it was a one piece with like shorts, but it was I was a size 6 or 8 and it was a size 14 because they didn't want me to wear something tight while going swimming. That's how extreme they were. And this is back when I was like 10. So yeah, I was like, I'm not wearing this to go swimming. So I wore it once and it was just very impractical. So I ended up throwing it in the forest behind our backyard. Don't tell my parents I said that because they're still wondering where that swimsuit went. Anyway, back to the freaking story. I'm gonna try also not to swear here because I don't want to get my videos flagged or taken down or whatever for inappropriate content. But it's so fun to swear. So I grew up in a very strict home, and a huge part of that, a huge element of my upbringing was women's modesties. I guess you could say modesty culture or purity culture. And being the only daughter, I felt like I was under more fire than anyone else. I was also the oldest, so there's that as well. So parents monitored my outfits a lot. Dad was a lot more strict on what he considered acceptable or not compared to my mom. Like if it was up to my mom, I would have gotten away with a lot more. But it is what it is. So Yeah, it was like that. I mean, I was fine. I still managed to develop my own style. Um, as I became a teenager and whatever, that a style that represented how I wanted to express myself, but still conformed to their rules. Um, anyway, in about 2011, when I was 15, oh, something bit me. In about 2011, when I was 15, my mom started lightly dabbling. My mom started getting into these videos or testimonies where people were claiming to have died or had near death experiences. So they had died or they had been in a coma, and God had taken them to heaven and hell to show them, I don't know, to show them, to give them another chance, basically, to tell them to come back to earth and tell the Christians on earth what they're doing wrong, what they're doing right. And at the time, she wasn't watching too many of them, but she would show them to us occasionally. And the only one that I remember from that time was the one where people had said they had died and God had taken them to hell and shown them Michael Jackson. Apparently, Michael Jackson was in hell, and every time that his music was played here on earth, he was tortured in hell in real time. So basically, all the time, if you think about the amount of places that exist on earth right now where his music could be being played right now. Anyway, whatever. We didn't really listen to Michael Jackson, so it didn't affect us too deeply. It was just kind of, oh my god, that's scary and sad. And then fast forward to 2013, when I was in grade 12, I was 17, and my mum really started getting more heavily into those testimonies. She was reading and watching them all the time. Also, just want to add another side point. In grade 11 was when I started getting kind of severely or seriously depressed. That's kind of when it started creeping. I've always had a melancholy disposition, even from a young age, but grade 11 was when it really started to affect me, started to affect my creativity, started to just affect me in general. Anyway, so grade 12, mom's getting into these testimonies really heavily, and she starts sending them to me, basically bombarding me with them. They were in forms of text and video, and there was a whole website full of them. And there was obviously heaps of videos on YouTube and whatever. So my mom was constantly sending them to me, and the common theme among a lot of these videos, not all, because that's important, a common theme among a lot of these videos was women who were claiming to have died, and they had apparently lived a really fervent life for God on earth, and when they died, they still ended up in hell because they were wearing pants, artificially styling their hair, so like hair dyes and straightening and all that kind of stuff, and braids and extensions and whatnot, wearing jewelry, wearing makeup. And so apparently, according to a lot of these people giving testimonies, apparently God had sent a lot of women who had otherwise lived their life for him. He had sent them to hell because they engaged in these things. But then there were also other testimonies on that same website, or similar testimonies from people who also claimed to have gone to hell and been shown this and that, or whatever, come back to earth. But they were still women wearing pants, wearing jewelry, wearing makeup, and all that. So there was just a bit of inconsistency between some of these testimonies. And I pointed this out to my mom, like, hey mom, why are some of these people saying that this is a sin and people are in hell for it, but then other people, God isn't showing them the exact same thing? And my mom would always come up with excuses. She would be like, oh well, this, that. I can't remember what her excuses were, but they were lame, because that doesn't make sense. There's no consistency. If it's if it's literally serious enough that people are, oh my god, I think I have a rash, guys. I have a rash. What is this? Oh my god, I hope not. Is that what's on my back as well? There's a rash on my back. It is what it is. I think I have arrived, but it's fine. I'll sort that out later. Where was I? So basically, yeah, she was just giving me lame ass excuses. I know she was spiritually tormented, and so she felt this need to, I guess, be as strict as possible with her religion and spirituality. So she was really holding on. Maybe she felt this need that maybe she felt this maybe she thought that the stricter she was with her spirituality and her Christianity, the more holy she was. So I think that's why she held on so tightly to these testimonies and whatnot. And the Bible verses that these people were using to justify these claims were really, I don't know. At the time, it seemed clear to me that they were being taken out of context or just being misused. For example, the one about braids and jewelry, they would quote this Bible verse that says, "Let your beauty come not from braided hair or the wearing of jewelry, but let it come from, I don't know, the heart or something." I don't remember the exact verse, but it was something along those lines, which it's clearly not saying these things are a sin. It's saying that that's not where true beauty comes from, right? Anyway, whatever. I brought these up with my mom, and she was, I'm the child, she's the adult. Whatever she says goes, basically. So I'm getting bombarded with these videos and testimonies, and obviously at the time I was still very religious, still very what's the word? Still very susceptible to all of that kind of spiritual guilt and religious guilt and whatever. So I fell for it. Actually, that weekend, Easter weekend, which was also the beginning of school holidays, so I was going to be alone for 2 weeks following that weekend. I experienced psychosis, so I started hearing voices in my head because of these videos. They just got too much, and I literally spent the entire weekend on the floor crying. I remember just sitting there just crying. I had to constantly keep myself distracted. I even cleaned the stove. The stove fan that no one literally ever cleans? I was finding so many things to do just so I could keep myself distracted, because if I was not distracted, I would start crying again. So I cleaned that and a bunch of other things. I was trying to read the Bible, trying to comfort myself, doing all these things, but oof, a rough time. And then I also, aside from the voices, I don't want to go into too much detail of what the voices were saying, but basically, it was a bunch of really loud, audible thoughts in my head. And some of them would be saying things that were blasphemous and whatnot, and then the other voices would try and get me in trouble for thinking those thoughts. It was just, my mind was working against me, basically. Also, if it wasn't obvious already, I felt like I forgot to mention this, but I feel like I need to mention this for whatever reason. I did get rid of all my stuff so all my makeup. I didn't really have much makeup. I was only wearing eyeliner at the time. So I got rid of my eyeliner, got rid of my jewelry, my pants, all of that. Started wearing skirts and covering my head everywhere I went. So if you knew me from back then and you noticed that I suddenly was only wearing long skirts and covering my head wherever I went, here you go. This is the explanation for why I started doing that. So I did start to live that way. My mom basically enforced the new standard of dressing in the house, which obviously at the time I was still a Christian, and I was so desperate to do whatever it took to get into heaven, basically. So I was more than happy to let go of those things, if that meant that it wasn't going to keep me from going to heaven. I just wanted to clarify that, because that is not what made me have this reaction. It was how horrific these videos and testimonies were, the things they were saying, and I don't know. I think for me as a child, it was just a lot to take all at once, a lot to have all those videos bombarded on you. It was more so just the horrible discussion of hell. I don't know. Anyway, I hope I have clarified. Aside from the voices and the panic attacks, I also felt this strong sense of tangible loneliness, and I don't know how to explain it, but it was the most alone I'd ever felt. And so I remember just needing to be around someone and just having someone in the room. And I told my mom about this, and I remember one time I was sitting in her room with her. I was just sitting on her bed. She was doing her own thing on her laptop or whatever. And then she got up to go pee, and I think I was scared. I didn't want her to close her bathroom door. So when she got up, I freaked out a little bit. I'm like, "Where are you going?" And she got so annoyed with me. She's like, leave me alone." Yeah, it was rough. It was rough to go through that by myself. And after a few weeks of it happening, I told my mom, this is what's going on. This is how I'm feeling because of these videos, blah blah blah. And you know what she said to me? She said, "It's because of all those black clothes in your closet. You keep wearing too much black, and that's why you're dealing with this." And I said, "What the frick do you mean? I've told you what's caused this, what's brought this on, the timeline, everything is right in front of your face, but you would rather blame it on my fashion choices, my color preferences, than take accountability for forcing this shit on me." She's an adult, I'm the child. You can't force an adult to take accountability, especially as a child. So yeah, that was, yeah. Anyway, so I went to school. So we went to a Christian school that was owned by the church that we went to, and I was in grade 12 at this point. And in grade 12, we had this subject, Christian living, which is our religious subject. And in grade 12, there was a few sessions where the pastor of the church would come in, and we would ask questions, and he would answer a bunch of the questions that we had, just any sort of questions about Christianity and whatever. Anyway, so before this though, when we went back to school after the holidays, I had asked the head of school's wife about advice on this stuff that I had been exposed to over the past few weeks. And I was just seeking direction, seeking answers and whatever. And she was very dismissive. It was almost like I was a bug annoying her. She didn't really want to deal with this. So she gave me a very dismissive answer. She said, "Well, we follow the New Testament now. We don't follow those rules anymore." And I was trying to explain to her, "Look, I get that in theory, but this is the shit that people are saying. They're saying that this is information that has been given to them currently." And it was just a lot for me to process as a child who was still learning. And you've put yourself in a position of spiritual and religious authority, yet you're just going to dismiss me when I have questions for you. So it was a very lonely experience for me. And so anyway, so we had the sessions where the pastor would come in and answer the questions. And there was one week where I decided to put in my questions. I wrote this long paragraph giving background detail about what I'd been exposed to, and I was asking him questions about it. And it wasn't anonymous. I made it known who I was because I really wanted my answer. And it is what it is. Anyway, the next week when it was time for him to answer the questions, he said 4 people had asked questions. They had received 4 questions and they were able to answer 3. Guess which one they weren't able to answer? Mine. But you know what the thing is? I can understand not being able to answer my question, but they never got back to me about it. They never approached me and be like, "Hey, look, we got your question. This is kind of out of my depth, whatever. Here's some resources that I can direct you to." None of that. I was just completely ignored, dismissed. Yeah, love pastors, love people who place themselves at a position of authority but can't give you a single slither of help when you need them. Anyway, whatever. Also with the voices, I had to, because they were so loud and they felt so real, I had to speak back to them to kind of shut them up. So there was a lot of me going around being like, "Shut up, stop, just under my breath all the time. It was actually, I was a crazy person basically. And I remember I had this best friend at school and we used to hang out all the time. And I never told her that this is what I went through, but I could tell that she would look at me funny sometimes. Probably because she would hear me randomly going, shut up, stop, under my breath from time to time. So embarrassing. I had to do what I had to do, you know? The reason why I say these voices ruined my life, they completely changed the trajectory of my life. Prior to my psychosis and whatnot, I used to love reading. I used to love being creative. I used to love all of that stuff, right? But after the psychosis, I literally constantly needed something to distract my mind. So I developed an addiction to watching movies and TV shows because I just needed something to constantly distract me. And I couldn't, I really struggled to read books. I really struggled to study. Oh, I need to stop scratching that. I hope it's nothing bad. I struggled to study. Yeah, my academic performance. She struggled. Yeah, reading books and studying and being creative was really hit hard. And I'm not doing a good job of explaining it here, but I really do feel like my life was ruined for a significant period of time because of this experience. You know, every day after school, I would come home and just sleep all day. So I get home around like, I don't know, 3:30, 4, and just sleep till nighttime. Maybe wake up for a couple of hours and go straight back to sleep. And that was just my life onwards. My mom obviously used to get annoyed at me for sleeping, but I don't know, I think everything just caught up to me, you know, and my body just couldn't handle it. Sleep was also a good escape, so I didn't have to deal with the voices when I was asleep. So there was that as well. Yeah, and then all these habits, you know, all these habits kind of carried on for the next several years. I just, even now, even till today, I would say things are better these days, but I still can never seem to get enough sleep. I still use sleep as a distraction. I don't hear the voices anymore. I forgot to mention that. I don't hear the voices anymore. They stopped a few years ago. So in that regard, I'm fine, but I'm still having to actively work against the need to be distracted all the time. Reading books is still a struggle for me because my mind is constantly just searching for that distraction. Being creative is also a struggle for me. So I can definitely say I'm in a much better place now, and saying that weekend ruined my life doesn't mean it ruined my life permanently, but I feel like I know there's no point in thinking where would I be if that never happened to me, right? But I do wonder sometimes, where would I be? I probably would be a doctor now, or I don't know, an engineer doing her PhD or something, you know. But there's no use in thinking that way. I am where I am. I still did all right for myself. You know, I have 2 degrees and I'm studying again, and I've been able to get good roles in the degree that I studied in. So it's not all bad, but there's a part of me that still holds resentment because my life was so negatively impacted, and the people who forced that shit upon me will never take accountability for it. I'm just having to deal with it myself. But that's just the way life works. A lot of people who get screwed over by other people have to work on their own healing and their own recovery and all of that, you know what I mean? So it is what it is. I've accepted it, and I try not to think too much about where would I be if this didn't happen to me. If we all thought like that, we'd all be depressed. I mean, we kind of are, but you know what I mean, though. So yeah, that's basically. I feel like I've left some stuff out, but you get the general gist of it. mm, I'm not religious anymore. I don't know if I mentioned that. I don't know if that was obvious. I'm not religious anymore. Still spiritual, but doing things kind of according to what's more authentic to me now. So yeah, I don't associate with the church anymore. Oh my god, imagine if someone from my family sees this. Whatever. Yeah, I don't really associate with the church anymore. Yeah, so thanks for watching this video. I just wanted to, document my story officially, because I've told a few people this story a couple times, but I just want to have some sort of like documentation of it somewhere. And this is it. Second take, because I recorded this yesterday. Anyway, I hope you don't relate to my story, but I hope that you enjoyed listening to it regardless. And please stick around. Please subscribe if you haven't. What is that? Please subscribe if you haven't. Like, comment, share, whatever. I am gonna be putting out more videos this year. I'm gonna be semi-consistent, but no promises. Just stick around and see what happens, I guess. Yeah, thanks so much for watching my video. I hope you have a lovely long weekend. Go outside if you can. Feel the sun rays. I did that today and I felt so much better. So I highly recommend it. Yeah. And hopefully I'll see you in the next video. I love you.